We are here with Sharon Lechter, and she has been an author, entrepreneur, businesswoman, and I think probably her best credential is a mother of three, which I think is amazing, all the things that she's done with financial literacy for children. She has a terrific website, has a lot of different products that she's developed for financial literacy, CPA, public speaker, the list goes on. And we're very thrilled to have her to be one of our interviews. And so I'm here and I've got all the questions, and I appreciate everybody for all of you for the questions that you've asked, and we're here today to get some answers. So with that, let's get started. The first question, Sharon, is much has been said about America spending its way out of the current recession, but a great deal of that spending is done on credit cards with 5 or 6 figure balances on them. Is it a prudent economic policy when Americans are as deep into debt as their country?
Absolutely not, no. I would be out of business and I would welcome it if everybody would just follow one tenet. Spend less than you earn. Spend less than you earn. But unfortunately, because easy credit and the country's affluence over the periods when we had the economic correction, people didn't stop spending, but they stopped earning. And so now we find ourselves in a tremendous amount of household debt and tremendous amount of credit card debt, student loan debt, and that's not prudent. It's not prudent because you have to really look at good debt versus bad debt and analyze your own personal debt. Is this debt something that's going to help me get to where I want to be? Is it debt for a rental property that's giving me positive cash flow? That's good debt. Or is it debt that I'm just getting myself deeper into a hole? So what happens is when you're in debt, you're mortgaging your future. And so it's not prudent to mortgage your future. It is prudent to invest and take on debt that can help you build an asset that can potentially give you revenue in the future. But personal debt is not a good idea.
Okay, thank you. Number 2, I've heard several successful business people say that the only ship that won't sail is a partnership. Do you feel this is true, considering you have experienced a business divorce with Robert and Kim Kiyosaki? And what prompted you to leave, and what did you learn from that experience?
Well, I think anytime you have a partnership, it's just, there are a lot of people out there that were happily married and then they weren't. So they ended up having a divorce in their personal relationship. So marriages happen, divorces happen. It would be great if we never had a divorce or a business divorce. But if you look at the 10-year partnership that I had with the Kiyosakis, we did a lot of books together, a lot of products, and a lot of things were done that created a lot of great things. And people found help and benefit from that. So I don't regret any of that. After a 10-year period, our missions were no longer aligned. What we wanted was different. And so it was appropriate to take leave from that relationship in 2007. So those things happen. We all have those ups and downs in our life, and we move forward and do what we were supposed to do. So sometimes you hear the stage, you have to clean out your closet to make room for something new. For me, it was important for me to stop doing what I was doing because it was no longer in alignment with my personal mission so that I could do something new. And that's what opened the world and the possibility for me. That's when I got the call from President Bush to be on the President's Advisory Council. And that's when I got the call from the Napoleon Hill Foundation, which is a huge honor. I mean, to have built the Rich Dad brand, international brand, was incredible. But then to be asked to step into the largest brand in personal development in the world, Napoleon Hill Foundation, was a huge honor. And so all of these things, we have to learn from the mistakes we make in the past and make sure we don't make them again in the future. But there was a lot of good things that came from that partnership as well. And that's what I want to hold on to.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say, is you're focused on what's good that came out of it.
That's right.
That's terrific. At what age would you begin educating a child on financial wellness, and what are some of the resources or tools you would recommend for educating children?
I love this question. It's one of my favorite questions. People say, I don't want to talk to my kids about money at such an early age. I don't want them to turn into be greedy. And I always chuckle, because then I answer the question with another question. At what age do you think a child knows the difference between a $1 bill and a $20 bill? What would you guess?
3.
Yep, 3, 4, 5. Somewhere in that range. A child, you give them a 1 and a 20, 9 times or 99 times out of 100, they're going to take the 20. So at that early age, they already understand the spending power of the $20 bill. But they don't understand the earning power and how long it takes to make that. And so that's the piece of the equation that we're not teaching our kids. And so it's really important that they see the full picture. And you don't have to sit them down and lecture them. But part of it is just talking to them about the world of finance when you're out and about. When you're at a fast food store, you can say, the business owner isn't here because he's got people working for him that run this place. Or there's one company that makes the styrofoam thing the hamburger's in, and a different company makes the straws. Just to talk about the world of business around them so they understand and start to see the elements of business. And on my website, SharonLechter.com, I have 30 questions that you can download it's completely free, and it allows you how you can start the conversation with your children about money. Start there, and then there's all kinds of free resources online, and if your child is a little bit older, say 9 or 10 and up, I would recommend the Thrive Time for Teens game, which really allows you to have a safe, unemotional, neutral environment, and it's a lot of humor in it, so the kids learn tons.
Terrific. Thank you. Number 4, do you foresee interest rates on savings instruments to ever exceed the pitiful 1% figures that we have now? If so, when?
History does repeat itself. You never know quite what's going to happen, and interest rates go up and they come down. So yes, they will go up again. Probably not for a couple of years. So from a standpoint of having savings in the bank, I think you need to look at that from a standpoint of having an emergency fund. And depending on who you talk to, anywhere from 3 to 6 months, some people even say 12 months to have as a safety net. Mm-hmm. But the interest rates, they will go back up, but probably not for a few years.
A few years, huh? Mm-hmm. Not fast enough.
Well, I think it's 2014. They said the interest rates they were going to keep them low. So once you start seeing the Federal Reserve start increasing their rates, you'll start seeing saving rates increase.
I see.
So keep an ear out for those Bernanke announcements.
And Bernanke's an important man.
Yeah.
What do you think of Dave Ramsey's approach to financial independence?
Well, we need more Dave Ramseys. We need more people. We need more advocates for financial literacy. I'm not going to criticize anybody out there trying to teach people about money, because we need more of us. We need more people out there. Dave has an excellent program. He's got like this first 7 easy steps to tackle your debt. The issue is not whose advice you're taking. The issue is, are you taking somebody's advice? Are you doing something to decrease your debt or improve your income? You have a choice. You can choose to live below your means, or you can choose to expand your means. And so when I talk to people, I want to encourage them to think about how they can make more money to live the life they want. People get so depressed about having to live below their means, and yet there's ways that you can make it a game to save money. And you can also think of new ways to make money. And so Dave Ramsey's programs are great. The people that I know that have gone through them have been happy. Others, other programs are out there as well. The issue is not the program. The issue is the person who needs the program. And are you going to take something and apply it in your own life and take control? Because each and every one of us is in the driver's seat of our own life. And it's up to us to make the choices as to where we want to go. If right now, this moment, this point in time, you're in debt, it's up to you to do something about it. So whether you seek out my stuff or Dave Ramsey's stuff or anybody else's, just do it.
So don't get so caught up on who
Right.
or where to go, but do something.
And
That's
be
what you're
careful
saying.
not to get yourself into a lot of debt to get that information. And that would be my number one word of advice, is there are a lot of people out there that charge a lot of money to teach you about money. It's like, if you're really heavily in debt, start with some of the free programs and see if you can start having that discipline yourself to start walking in the right direction, rather than getting yourself so seriously in debt even further.
It's kind of an oxymoron, isn't it? Number 6, one of Charlie Tremendous Jones's favorite quotes is, "The only difference between where you are today and where you'll be a year from today are the books you read and the people you meet." What books have you read and what people have you met that have helped you become the woman you are today?
Well, I can't answer that question in 2 to 3 minutes, but that quote from Charlie Tremendous Jones was in our book, 3 Feet from Gold, that I co-authored with Greg Reed, and that was my first book that I did with the Napoleon Hill Foundation. And they called me on March 20th, 2008, and I had just, had the separation from Rich Dad. And it was such an honor to be asked to step into that project, because what happened was Think and Grow Rich, the famous book of personal development, came out during the Great Depression. And certainly what we've seen in the last few years has rivaled that from a standpoint of an economic roller coaster. So the Napoleon Hill Foundation wanted to have something come out to really reinvigorate the words and sayings of Napoleon Hill. And 3 Feet from Gold was a project we did where we talked to many of today's successful people, not just about their success stories, but about those deep, dark moments. And Charlie Tremendous Jones was a huge part of that project. And unfortunately, he passed away before the book actually came out. And so this quote of Charlie's is very important to me and to Greg Reed, my co-author on the book, because he really opened the door to a lot of people for us. And it really is, if you think about your life, you really, the environment that you have around you, the people you hang out with, tend to help drive you to success or hold you back. And so he says, think about the people that have helped you along the way. Certainly, I had an incredible father, incredible mother, that always told me I could be anything I wanted to be. I had a 4th grade teacher, Mrs. Taylor, who made me understand that I loved numbers and math. I had an 8th grade teacher, Mrs. Bosch, who told me, Sharon, you're going to be a writer one day. And I just laughed, ha ha. No, I'm going to be numbers. I'm going to do numbers. And so, years later, I'm going, oh my goodness, Mrs. Bosch, she told me I was going to be a writer, and here I am. And so that as a young person, those are things that you remember, turning points in your life. Then I remember I started my career at Coopers & Lybrand, and one of my investors stepped in and said, Sharon, I need your help. And this gave me an opportunity to step into the entrepreneurial world, and I never turned back. And doing that, I could have stayed where I was because I was on a fast track, but it was like, okay, that's when I came up with my own personal motto, why not? Why not do something? Instead of finding the why, ask yourself, why not? If you can answer it, if it's illegal, that's a good reason not to do something. But why not take that road less traveled?
Yeah.
And so that's really what allowed me to step into the entrepreneurial world. And as a result, I made a big mistake that first step with business-wise, but that was when I met my husband. And so all of us, you have to look at the choices that you make and say, where's the benefit? Where am I going to get the benefit from this?
Sure.
And books that I Think and Grow Rich, I read when I was 19. How to Win and Influence People by Dale Carnegie was an incredible book. Certainly Outwitting the Devil, which is my most recent book, which Napoleon Hill wrote in 1938, has been the most transformational book that I've ever been involved with or ever read.
Wow.
Because it talks about how to break through those self-limiting beliefs, how to get rid of the fear and negativity in your lives. And it really helps you identify things, that self-sabotage element that many of us have that hold ourselves back. And so that, by far, is the most impactful book I've ever read.
Wow, okay, good information. Number 7 is, how have you been able to balance the demands of your career with those of your family?
Well, number 1, I can't stand the word balance.
Okay.
For those of us that are closer to my age, we see a lot of books, a lot of articles, a lot of seminars on how to get balance. Well, when you're balanced, you're not moving. I don't know anybody who's not moving. We're either moving forward or back. And so a lot of us women, in particular, start feeling guilty because we don't feel like we're in balance. Well, where you are today is because of the choices you've made before today. So if you feel guilty that you haven't been spending enough time with your husband, change it. If you feel guilty that you haven't been spending enough time on your business, change it. So we have the choice to do something differently to feel better about it in the future. So it's really not balance, it's choices. If you're not happy with where you are today or the amount of time you're spending in each area of your life, make a commitment today. I'm going to experiment. I'm going to change and see if I feel better about it or I'm happier about it. And for me, I'm totally out of balance all the time. I'm either headstrong into writing or headstrong into meetings or traveling, but if I grew up in a household where every night my father asked me, Sharon, have you added value to someone's life today? And so today, many, many, many years later, I still ask myself that. And so it's really how you feel when you look in the mirror at night. Do you feel good as a mother? Do you feel good as a wife? Do you feel good as an author? Do you feel good as a person? Have you really added value to someone's life? And I think that's the element. If you can feel good about how you spent your day, then everything's going to fall into place.
That's great advice. Number 8, how did you first discover that financial literacy was something you would want to do dedicate your life to?
Well, that's a real easy question to answer, but I'll have to give you a little background first.
Okay.
As I mentioned, I am a CPA. That's how I started my career, and then I became entrepreneurial and started building businesses. And we moved to Wisconsin. Our kids, we had 3 children, and they didn't like to read, and their friends didn't like to read. And I met the inventor of the first talking book. You know, kids' books that have the sound strips down the side,
sure.
and I helped build that industry. Again, it was my passion as a parent that helped me come into that. Well, then we moved in 1991 here to Arizona, and in '92, in the fall of '92, our oldest son went off to college, ASU.
Okay.
Left in September, came home in December, and said, "Mom and Dad, I need your help. I'm $2,500 in credit card debt." I was devastated because I taught him the lessons that my parents taught me. When I graduated from high school or from college, I had $21,000 in the bank to start my life. And I'm going, what went wrong? What didn't I teach him? And again, it comes back to he was with me when I used my credit cards, but he wasn't with me to see I paid him off every month. And he gets to the university and he is met the first day with this gauntlet of tables: free pizza, free money; free t-shirt, free money; you know, free beach towel, free money. And so he got himself in, he had a good time. He had a really good time, but he got himself into debt. And so he came home and asked us to bail him out, and we said no. And it took him 7 years to get out of debt and 7 years to repair his credit. But he's not as passionate as we are about this topic, and he worked side by side with me in the area of financial literacy. But that was that point in time. That was December of 1992 that I dedicated my professional career to the pursuit of financial education and creating financial information and tools that could help young people, women, families, entrepreneurs take control of their financial lives.
That must have made quite an impact on you when he said that.
Yes.
For you to make such a change and commit to it so long. But that's great. I mean, you never know going through life what's going to
Well, in the
change
book,
things.
3 Feet from Gold, which was the one that Charlie Tremendous Jones was involved in, we came
Yeah.
up with something called your personal success equation. And it's pretty profound from my perspective. It's taking your passion, and my passion is that of a parent. And my passion, a lot of people think that passion is do what you love or love what you do. Well, I realized in doing this book that my passion really came from anger. I was mad that we weren't teaching kids about money. And so my passion was, and I'm just as mad today as I was in 1992. So it's a long time. And so I take my passion and combine it with my talent. And my talent was a CPA and my background in publishing. So I combine those two, and many people stop there and they try to build businesses. But it's so important to understand, to be successful, you need to have the right association. Surround yourself with the right people. Collaborate with the right people so that you can leverage your passion and talent into a successful position. And then take the right action. You know, we talk about expecting the success, build it and they will come. We got to have the action. You got to go out there and reach the right people and be able to expand your business. And we almost went to press with that as the personal success equation. But right before I said, there's still something missing. All of these really successful people that we talked to had another element, and that was faith. They had a tremendous amount of faith in themselves and what they were doing. And that's what helped them get through the really bad times, the dark times, the valleys. That's what helped them persevere when others would have quit. And so that's really such an important thing if you're stuck right now, is think about your own personal success equation. Your passion, your talent, finding the right association, taking the right action, but above all, having faith in yourself.
I know Napoleon Hill talks a lot about faith in his books as well. Number 9, I'm trying to save money, but each time I get a little extra, I feel obligated to pay down my debt instead. Do you recommend putting money into paying debt or savings? Why or why not?
Well, I'll answer that with a question. What percentage rate are you paying on your debt? And what percentage rate are you making on your savings? I had a girl call me actually 3 days ago and ask me the same question. And so I asked her that question in return, and she's paying 18% on her debt and she's getting 1% in the bank. I think that answers the question. Now, at the same time, though, I said, when you're looking at your credit rating, if you're not in too serious of trouble, you might want to ask to have your credit limits increased, not so you can use them, but if you can get your credit limits increased when you don't need the credit, that helps your credit rating. So make sure you look at where your balance is, because then that increased credit limit can be kind of your safety net. But if you're paying a high amount of interest on your credit cards, and you've got money sitting there making a low amount of interest, then you are net negative. So look at how you can be net positive.
I got you. So it's all about the interest rates, which is the big. Number 10 is what fears have you experienced both in your business and personal life, and how have you overcome them or pushed through them?
Well, I love this because a lot of people say, to have courage is the absence of fear. And I really believe courage is acting in spite of fear. Because I think if you're fearless, then you're not doing your due diligence, or you're maybe being impulsive as opposed to being cautious and making decisions with courage, meaning acting in spite of fear. Fear is a natural element of life, and we all have it in various ways. I've had a lot of fear as a mother. When you have kids growing up, teenagers, the worry element kicks right in. But you have to really hold on to that. I read a definition of the word to worry is to pray for what you do not want. And that really made a profound impact on me, because I was the queen of worry. But so you really have to recognize fear and deal with it and say, how can I take a step that will lessen that fear? And how can I step into the unknown, knowing that I might make a mistake, but if I do, I'm going to learn from it. And so lots of fear. I mean, when you're an entrepreneur, you have lots of issues that happen that are fearful. Is the phone going to ring? Somebody going to want to buy what I'm making? The fear from when I left public accounting and went out to Gonick, New Hampshire, to a place I knew no one. I knew nothing about the business. I was going in representing new money. I was very fearful because it was totally, a whole new experience for me. But, and the fear, it ended up being a bad decision, as I said, business-wise, but it was the best decision I ever made because I met my husband. So those kinds of things, you have to say I talk about, you're in a car, you're in the driver's seat of your own life. Your car has a big windshield. And that's so you today can decide where you want to go. You want to go straight, right, left, whatever you want to do. But the rear view mirror is very small. And it's small on purpose, because you're only supposed to learn from the past, not dwell on it. And so many of us tend to dwell on our mistakes or dwell on the fear as opposed to saying, okay, why not? So many times in my life, and I bet a few of your viewers will relate to this, you want to talk to somebody, you have an issue. I have an issue with you, Matt. It takes me 3 days. And I go, well, what if I say this, he's going to say this? You get yourself in this frenzy about what's going to happen.
Right.
You're so fearful and worried. And then when you actually have it, it's like, that wasn't such a big deal. And it's kind of human nature that we get ourselves worked up with that fear. But the issue is taking the step to get past the fear.
In spite of the fear. Good advice. Here's another one from a stay-at-home mom. Number 11, I'm a stay-at-home mother of 5. I see you have many ways to help educate and inspire children and teens in the area of finances. Where is the best place to start for someone like myself that wants to feel confident in her abilities to handle and understand finances?
Well, I'm not sure what ages your children are. 5 kids, congratulations, and Mother's Day is coming up, so happy Mother's Day. I think it's really important to understand that you start today. It's not where do you start, it's when do you start. Start today, talking about money. And if there's been a silver lining of the last few years with this horrible economy we've been in, the silver lining is that it's okay to start talking about money. Because if you're trying to protect your kids, they know friends at school whose parents have been downsized, right-sized, outsized, or their families have had to move into an apartment because they lost their home. So your kids are worried about it. A recent survey from Charles Schwab had 93% of teens said that they had been negatively impacted by the economy. So they're dealing with this, and if you're not talking to them, you should be. So, because they know what's going on, and if they know that, I had a mother I talked to last month, and we had the same conversation. She called me back a week later, and she said, Sharon, you wouldn't believe it. I sat down and talked to my kids, and they started sharing about their friends and how they were worried about them and that kind of thing. They wanted us to help them out. And then we talked about the things that we were doing, about how we weren't going out to eat as often, that we stopped going to the grocery store 5 times a week and only go once a week. You know, things that we were doing to try and be better and more prudent about our spending. And she says, it's amazing because the kids, as soon as we opened that door and had that conversation, they've started thinking of ways we can save money. They don't leave their light on anymore, she said. So, I mean, so our kids are brilliant, and they're smarter than we give them credit for. And so the better thing is to have that conversation with them and let them be creative in ways to not only save money, but to make money.
And you've emphasized the key is to start right away, don't you?
That's right. And go to my website and get the 30 questions.
Okay.
It's free. And it's just, it kind of triggers the way to start a conversation about money that's kind of in a safe space for you.
Okay, great. What's been your most rewarding or memorable story of helping a person or family out of debt, and why?
Wow. Well, it's very humbling to answer that question because there's so many stories of people that have found value. And a lot of people come up to me and say, you know, Rich Dad Poor Dad or 3 Feet from Gold or Outwitting the Devil saved my life. And I stop them and I say, you know, thank you. You know, I don't want to minimize what they're sharing with me, but I say, I just want you to stop and rephrase that. You know, say thank you. I really got a lot of value out of the book that you wrote, and I made changes in my life. Because I want people to own the fact that they've gotten themselves out of debt. Not that I helped them. No. Something I wrote inspired them to take action on their own. And that we all need to take a little bit more personal responsibility for what we're doing in our own life. And say, I'm in control. And I'm where I am today because of the choices that I've made. And if I want something different, if I'm not happy with where I am today, I need to make different choices for the future. And so there's so many people. I had a young man, a sports star, who I said, you know, look at all these guys that are making millions of dollars, and yet at the age of 40, they're living under a bridge because they didn't understand. They had this sudden wealth syndrome, they call it. And I say, you know, I really wish I could get them to talk to them about in these contracts. Put away 20% of that contract into a trust or something where they can't raid the trust, so that when they retire, they're going to at least get the income off that trust for the rest of their lives, and they would be financially independent. Well, the following month I found out that he did that with his contract. So that's impactful for me at that end. But then there's also the young mother that I met whose husband left her. She had 3 kids, one with special needs, and she was a stay-at-home mom, and she was basically on food stamps and on welfare because she didn't know what other options she had. And talked to her. It was a group of women in that area, and together they got together and started helping each other with babysitting. They got together and they started making quilts and started selling quilts. And a year later, these 3 young mothers were off welfare. That is the embodiment of what we need to do in our lives, is help other people help themselves. And give a hand up, not a handout. And you give a hand up by providing education so that people can learn what they need to do to take care of themselves.
It's empowering people through education.
And we're not alone. We are not islands. We are all connected. And so if we work together, we can make a real difference.
Wonderful. As someone who barely makes enough money to even pay their monthly bills, what steps do you recommend to get out of it and get on the path to financial independence?
Well, I appreciate that question, and my heart goes out to you because it's a very difficult, dark place to be. And what happens is a lot of people, that fear takes over, and they become very insulated, and they hide instead of asking for help. So I would suggest that you find other people that are in the same situation you are and get together and see if there's a way for you to buy things together so you can get discounts. See if there's ways that you can help each other's, babysit each other's kids so you can go out and maybe get another job. Try and start a business on the side, start making something, whatever your passion is, your hobby. Look for a community of people to help you, because the future of business is really collaboration and cooperation. And there are a lot of free, nonprofit debt counseling organizations. And don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call one of them. But don't sign a long-term agreement. Talk to them and find out if they are rated by the Credit Counseling Association. Make sure they're a nonprofit and see what their suggestions are for you. If you're in a church, if you have a membership in a church, many of the churches have organizations that help you get out of debt. So reach out, ask for help.
Okay. Okay, I believe we're on 14. Most successful people attribute charitable donations and philanthropic efforts as a major factor to their success. Would you agree? And if so, what advice would you give to a startup with little to no extra resources?
Well, that's several questions in one, but I will start by saying absolutely, being charitable, I can absolutely credit that to my success. I met the inventor of the talking book because we both were working with the American Cancer Society at the time. Mm-hmm. I'm on a national board Women Presence organization, which allows me to meet a lot of people that have helped me expand my business and grow my business and launch my game, Thrive Time for Teens. I'm on a national board for Child Help USA, an international organization to end child abuse. And every time you work from your heart in giving back, new doors of opportunity will open for you. Everything that we create at Pay Your Family First, the Thrive Time for Teens game, our biz kit to teach young kids about starting their own business, giving to charity is a very major element of everything we do. Because I truly believe it's the foundational element that, when I say we're all a community, we're not islands, we need to help each other. And when people are stuck, whether it's being in business or their personal life, the first thing I recommend to them is go do something. You know, if you can't give money, give time. But by doing that, you realize that there are other people less fortunate than you. So you start building up a little gratitude for what you do have. Mm-hmm. And you start meeting other people that are of similar mind. And by doing that, you expand your network. You expand your possibility for association, one of the A's. Mm-hmm. And so people that are stuck, I say, when was the last time you went to a new meeting, a new seminar, or went to a new church or a new charity to help? That's how you can start getting yourself unstuck.
Great. The next question is investing in gold and silver. What are your thoughts? Well,
gold and silver, it's the commodity that everybody runs to when you've got craziness in our currency.
I hear a lot of ads these days.
Yeah. I have a lot of gold. I have a lot of silver. And I think there's a balance between when you talk about having your funds in different areas and being not all in one spot. So I think gold and silver are very important elements of anybody's portfolio. But when you talk about being diversified, most personal financial planners want you to be diversified between stocks and bonds and all paper assets. When I talk about being diversified, we talk about real estate, paper, businesses, and commodities like gold and silver. So you want that to be an element of your portfolio, but you don't want to have everything in one bucket.
Rather than diversifying inside of one category.
Right.
That makes sense. What is the first thing you do when you wake up?
In the morning, the first thing I do when I wake up, besides brush my teeth, is I recite the prayer of Jabez. And that's something that really has helped me over the last 5-6 years. And it's something that is kind of a mantra that I say to myself every day, several times a day. So.
Wow, that's great. I'll have to look that up. I'm not familiar with that.
Well, I'll give you my rendition of it. It says, Dear God, bless me indeed, which means please, bless my day and give me the opportunity to expand my wealth. But dear God, please bless me indeed. and make your hand be with me, so that whatever I do in your likeness and in your will. Okay, so please bless me indeed. Your hand be with me. Expand, enlarge my territory. So allow me to do something bigger than I think I can do. Enlarge my territory.
Okay.
Okay. Protect me from evil. Because when you're out there doing more than you think you should be, you're kind of a target. So protect me from evil, that I may not be harmed. And that's the prayer of Jabez.
Oh.
So asking for God's grace to help you do something that you don't think you can do, to add value to the world, and in doing so protect you and give you the opportunity to do better than you think you can.
That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Great start to your day, right?
Mm-hmm.
The next one is, some feel that America's free enterprise system is breaking down due to an increased expectation that the government should take care of everyone. Do you feel this way? And if so, what does America need to do?
I absolutely feel that way. I am a strong proponent of the free enterprise system. And I believe we are each need to take more responsibility for our own lives and where we are. And not rely on the government, an employer, or your parents, or someone else to take care of you, but to make the decisions that take care of yourself. And I think if we can all get back to that kind of formula, we'd see this economy turn around real fast. The more we become dependent on others, the bigger the problem becomes. Because as you become dependent on others, you lose your own motivation to be productive. And the less productive we become as a nation, the bigger unemployment becomes, the less opportunity there is for new businesses, and we have to turn that dial. We have to get back to free markets, free enterprise, and start creating value, and that value engenders others to create value.
Terrific. 18, this question is 2 words. Worst habit.
Worst habit, oh my. My worst habit. Oh, I got a lot. I'm not quite sure where to start. Probably my worst habit is not learning to say no. Okay? I kind of overbook myself a lot. So my worst habit is probably not exercising enough. That's it. Well, yes, my husband, he would probably say that too. Because I have so much to do that I let the exercise kind of get at the bottom of the list, and I should be putting it at the top of the
That's
list.
the first one to go when your time's busy, your schedule fills up. As a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, when I was my 4th grade teacher, as I said, I wanted to be a math teacher just like her because I thought she was wonderful. We had moved to Florida when I was in the 4th grade, so I was very shy because everybody else had their friends, and so I was kind of the redhead, freckled kid that was new. And she kind of took me under her wing and made me believe that I could be anything I wanted to be. So I thought, I want to be just like you. And she was a math teacher. So for many years, I wanted to be a 4th grade math teacher.
Oh, wow.
And then, as I said, my 8th grade teacher told me I was going to write. But when I got to college, I had been, during high school, I'd been given a grant to do some genetic research. So when I went to college, I was kind of double tracking in accounting business and in genetic science, genetic biology, both of which I loved. And then when I was a junior in college, I said, wait a minute, I can get out of school in 4 years with accounting, 8, 9 years over here. So that's when I decided I was going to graduate in accounting. So I always knew I wanted to, my 4th grade teacher also had gone to Florida State University. So I knew from then I wanted to go to Florida State. So I guess I always really wanted to be of help to others, and it always had to involve numbers somehow.
Great. What's the most impulsive thing that you've done?
That's probably a long list too. Probably the most impulsive thing I did was I went to an auction, the Barrett-Jackson auction a few years ago, and they were very supportive of Child Help, the organization that I'm on the board for, and so I bought a car. I bought a James Bond Aston Martin. James Bond color, with the little, oh, I loved it. It's a DB1 Roadster, and totally out of character for me. But I got into the moment with the auction up on stage, and another guy was bidding against me, and so I was pretty impulsive that day. However, the rest of the story is 3 years later, I sold it, got all my money back, and was able to donate a large section of that money to Child Help. So it all ends well in the end.
Good. Some argue that our current public education system is broken. What should and could be done to better educate America's children regarding finances and money in our public school systems?
Well, I can do a self-serving response to that. We just finished a statewide initiative here in Arizona where we took our Thrive Time for Teens game into schools around the state. And then the winners from each of these high schools came to a statewide championship. And the three winners ended up with college scholarships. And it was so exciting because they all basically said that the scholarships were going to allow them to go to college, and they didn't think they could. So that was just like a 20-year dream come true for me. But that was as a result of, for 20 years, me trying to get the school education system to open up the door and invite financial literacy in. Because it doesn't matter what you do when you graduate, whether you're a janitor, CEO, or an entrepreneur, we all have to deal with money. And it's just, I think it's criminal that we're not teaching our kids about money. And so I've been on this treadmill for a long time. And then I finally put my stake in the ground and actually went out and bribed the schools, paid them a donation to let me come in and play the game with the kids. And so we just need more of us demanding it. The more parents and interested adults that demand financial education, the sooner our financial system, our educational system will wake up. I'm happy to say that the superintendent of education for the state of Arizona, John Huppenthal, came to our statewide championship. So that was like really big step in a positive direction.
That's great.
So much, and our educational system is broken. It's broken. It's not because we don't have wonderful teachers. We have wonderful teachers, but the system has gotten to such teaching for the test. And as I shared with you my latest book, which Napoleon Hill wrote in 1938, in 1938 he has a whole section in the book about education and how we need to get away from drilling information into our kids. This is 1938. And that we needed to make education more experiential.
Wow.
Well, to read it, it was hidden for 73 years because his wife was afraid of the title, Outwitting the Devil, just so you know. And I was really honored to be asked to bring it out. But it was so validating to me when I first read it, because that's everything I do. All of our products and my company, Pay Your Family First, is experiential based, because that's how we learn best. You know, you don't learn to snow ski by watching a movie.
Right.
You strap them on and hope you don't have too many bumps and bruises along the way. But that's, all about money. The experiential nature of what we teach gives the kids a chance to experience the right way to do things and the wrong way to do things, but in a safe environment using play money.
Terrific. Thank you. The next question is, what attribute do you seek most in the people you want to be friends with?
Great question. Honesty and integrity, and good hearts.
All right, I like that. Number 23, what do you feel are the best causes for your philanthropic work?
Well, absolutely. Financial education. And we have Pay Your Family First as a for-profit company on the website, but we also, most of what I do is actually working in the nonprofit arena, giving back. Like our whole Thrive Time Challenge that I just described to you was totally an investment in Arizona that I made. So that was money going in the opposite direction. So financial literacy of all kinds is my major philanthropic effort. But I also have child help, which is, again, against the most innocent victims in our world, is those children that are suffering from child abuse.
Sure.
And then from a professional perspective, I'm really honored to be a national spokesperson for the AICPA, which is the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. So remember I told you the A, association. Well, even though I haven't been a practicing CPA for many years, I kept my credentials current, and I kept that association. And now, just 2 years ago, they asked me to be their national spokesperson for financial literacy. So that's a huge honor for me, and a way that I give back from my professional perspective. So we have to look at your philanthropic efforts from a social, which is my child help, a professional, which is my AICPA, and I also serve on the National Board for Women Presidents Organization. So those are my professional ways of giving back and donating my time. And then my true passion is in the financial literacy arena.
Great, thank you. The last question. What is a typical day like, start to finish?
I have no typical days.
I was afraid you would say that.
I do a lot of traveling, and I do a lot of writing. So my typical day is I get up and I make an excuse why I can't exercise, because I have too much on my plate. I do my prayer of Jabez, I get dressed, and I go answer my emails and plan out my day. And then I plan out my day, also I plan out what I shouldn't do that day. From a standpoint, a lot of people have their to-do lists. I recommend people do their not-do lists, figure out how you can free up some time. And I'm better at telling people about it than doing it myself. But my typical day is always, well, I do have a mantra that I have, and I call it my 2-2-2 rule. Before I turn my computer off at night, I promise myself that I'll do, it used to be, years ago, it was 2 handwritten letters, 2 phone calls, and 2 faxes. Well, of course, faxes have kind of almost gone to the wayside. So now it's either 2 tweets, 2 texts, 2 phone calls, and 2 handwritten letters still that project and move my business forward. So that every day, because sometimes we get so bogged down in the present or in the past, trying to deal with stuff, particularly when the economy is crazy, that we forget to move forward into the future.
Sure.
And so that's one of the things I do every day.
That's great. I like that. I'll have to try that myself. Well, thank you. Thank you for your terrific answers. And thanks to all the askers for the wonderful questions.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
It's been my pleasure.